Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hit Play. I am one of your hosts, Isaac Jimenez, joined always by James Harding. James, what's going on, man?
Hello. I'm tired because I just got back from a road trip.
Yeah, you came to visit Austin, man. How did you enjoy the city? Did you enjoy your time?
I really did enjoy it. Yeah. Thanks for driving me all those places.
No worries,
Wish
man.
I had my own car, but
It's all good. It's all good. I enjoy driving you around. It's nice to get out of San Antonio every once in a while. So, today we were talking about one of the more, one of the more popular studios, I would say, in today's box office landscape, for lack of a better word. A24. They've kind of bursted on the scene in recent years. I think they're probably their biggest hit that brought them to the forefront was, I guess, Deus Ex Machina. And ever since then, people have really
it's just Ex Machina. It's just Ex Machina.
Oh, I'm thinking of the game Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, you're thinking of Deus Ex.
Whoops, my bad. Okay,
That's
Ex Machina. Sorry, cut that out, Tim. But ever since then, really, audiences have kind of been paying attention to what A24 comes out, and we're getting the Green Knight. I believe it's this year, and a lot of people are very, very excited for that film. What are your thoughts on A24? Do you like them? Do you kind of roll your eyes at sometimes the, I guess, overhyped that they can get, or do you think it's well deserved?
It's a mixture of both. I think they have enough. So I sometimes roll my eyes because they are pretty overhyped, but they, in the past at least, have been pretty good tastemakers for a lot of independent film fans. And they've introduced a lot of directors and creative teams to American film and independent film that it's hard not to respect them whenever they try something new or different, or at least understand why they're doing it, because at least they're willing to do, weird stuff like the Lighthouse and whatnot. But sometimes I'm like, whenever I see a trailer and I see the A24, I'm like, oh, I know what kind of film this is going to be.
Yeah. I will say this about A24, regardless of if you like their movies or not, and I certainly do not like every single movie that they've produced, I can appreciate that they're always willing to be different in every director that they hire, I guess. There's always like this weird, they always have this weird filming technique, where it's, what, Midsummer? As much as I couldn't get into Midsummer, I think I stopped like an hour and a half in. That hour and a half I was watching, I was just like, man, this is so different than what we're used to seeing, because there were so many different kind of like editing techniques. There was different ways that the director moved the camera. And as much as I didn't like the content, I could appreciate the technicality of some other directors. And you see that all throughout really all of their films. There's always that certain kind of twist to them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so this was going to be our top 5 favorite films, but a lot of my favorite films are kind of early in the studio's history and do a really good job of setting some of the precedent for what A24 would end up becoming. And I know that we kind of meme on this film in the past, but the first film I'm going to bring up is Spring Breakers.
Oh, man. As soon as I saw it on the list, I knew you were going to bring it up.
You know what's hilarious, too, is I remember when this film came out, and when I saw it on the list of A24 films, I was like, really? I don't remember, or I didn't even expect that.
Super surprising.
Yeah, I didn't expect it, and I didn't remember it.
Why do you like Spring Breakers so much? Sell me on it right now.
No, I'm not going to. However, I just want to bring it up briefly because it was only like their third film or something like that they had produced. But it really, you had said that Ex Machina got them off the ground, and I think Ex Machina drew a lot of mainstream attention. But I think Spring Breakers was like their big break, pun intended, because get this, so they're an independent studio, so they're usually working on small budget stuff. Spring Breakers only had a budget of $5 million, but its box office was $31 million, and this was only their third film. And I remember the marketing for this film was hype. Like, everyone was talking about this film. And I'm like, guys, this is Harmony Korine. Do you even know who he is or what he does? You're not going to enjoy this. But in a weird way, it kind of got them off the ground in terms of just their own marketability as a studio. Because to have that kind of success in Spring Breakers really early on, even if people didn't like it, it didn't get audiences interested into the studio, but it definitely got directors, you know what I'm saying? Like more creative people into the studio. Because they were like, oh, these guys made a Harmony Korine movie sell. We're going to go to them.
They can make anything.
Yeah, pretty much. You can turn anything to gold at that point if you can get people to watch Harmony Korine movie. He's not a bad director.
That's also what's cool about A24 is they're always willing to give directors a chance. Like I think Denis Villeneuve got his American big break from A24. I think it was Enemies, right? Was a A24 film.
Yep. Enemy. Yep.
And then we also got Greta Gerwig recently, who was a 2-time nominated. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Don't worry about it. But no, I definitely see what you're saying. They definitely do a good job of, and maybe it's because they're independent, they can get away with this, but they definitely seem to step back from, creative interfering with their films, from what I can tell. Maybe they do, and they just make god-tier decisions, and it turns out all right. And maybe they are turned out bad, and I don't know because I don't see those bad films because they're bad. But regardless, Spring Breakers, I think, was really kind of what got them off the ground. Ex Machina probably took them into the air, but I think Spring Breakers was really their first big break, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But the next 3 films I want to mention, and yes, there are 3 of them, are Enemy, Under the Skin, and Lock. And I think these 3 films together really brought A24 to the forefront to a lot of film fans, like the cinephiles, if you know what I'm saying. Not like the mainstream commercial audience, but like the cinephiles, the independent film fans, the people who look for that kind of stuff. So all of these films, Enemy was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who was previously a director in Montreal, where he's from. Under the Skin was directed by Jonathan Glazer, who did music videos, actually. And then Locke was directed by Stephen Knight, who mostly worked in television. If you've ever seen the show Peaky Blinders, he was the showrunner for that. All these 3 films had relatively well-established directors, but none of whom were really big into like American film. This was Denis Villeneuve's first film in America. And this is really Stephen Knight, like one of his first films just in general, I think. And the same with Jonathan Glazer. It was only like his 3rd movie. So we see them taking the risks with their creative teams again. They're taking these unknown or just enthusiastic people and saying, what's your idea? And we'll make it for you. We'll give you the money. But I think these 3 films really set the precedence for A24 in 2 other ways, because they all had big name actors in them as well. Enemy had Jake Gyllenhaal, who actually plays two roles, and that's not a spoiler. Under the Skin had Scarlett Johansson, and Locke had Tom Hardy. So you're getting this independent film company who's managing to attract these big actors with these relatively unknown or underappreciated directors, and to some degree even the writers behind them. They were all pretty successful films in their own right. I mean, maybe today not many people see them or have talked about them, but I mean, I would recommend all three of them. I don't know if you have seen them or not, Isaac.
I have not, no, but kind of speaking on the big actors thing, I think these three films kind of showed that it kind of showed the commerciality for a big actor to go to an quote unquote independent studio.
Yeah.
And that there is success following this path, especially with a studio like A24.
Yeah.
And so I think that opens up so many things, especially with, all the films that I'm going to bring up about that. Now they're starting to bring talent who's in their prime and not just like Spring Breakers, Vanessa Hudgens and Selena Gomez. Yeah, they're big names, but I'm not I'm the biggest Selena Gomez fan in the world. I'm not gonna say she's in her prime as an actress at all. Vanessa Hudgens, I think, was coming off the High School Musical movies like 5 years prior. So, like they're big names, yeah, but they're not in their primes. But these guys that you brought up, Gyllenhaal, Hardy, and Johansson, they're all.
These guys are A-list actors, is what you're trying to say. Yeah, for sure. And especially Under the Skin and Locke had pretty big box office success as well, at least compared to their budgets. I think Enemy was kind of a flop, but it's a good film. You should watch it.
Man, what's up with Denis making flops?
I know, him and his flops. But the other way I think that these films both set the precedent for the future of A24 was that, and you brought this up earlier, and this was something that I thought of my own, that I thought I was kind of crazy for thinking, and I didn't expect you to bring this up at all. But these films are really experimental in terms of their cinematography and their visual styles as well. So for example,
isn't Locke doesn't take place? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but doesn't Locke take place in a car the whole time?
Yep, it's Tom Hardy on the phone in a car, and that's the entire movie.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that one because everybody was like, "What?"
Yeah, they shot it over 3 days, and they did one take each time with the camera in a different location. So they just cut back and forth between those different angles.
That's crazy.
And that's the entire film.
And Tom Hardy's correct me if I'm wrong, Tom Hardy's the only one who actually appears on camera?
Yes. Because you hear the phone
conversations. I do remember hearing about this one.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Imagine trying to sell that concept even 5 years prior.
It sold. Well, that was part of what I was saying with these films being really big and getting A24 noticed by the, like, quote unquote, the film fans. The hobbyists, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Because we love that kind of stuff.
Film
I
fans,
remember distinctly
fans.
seeing the trailer for Enemy. Yeah. I remember seeing the trailer for Enemy and being like, I've never seen anything like this before. Because the way it's filmed is just the color grading in it has this really yellow mustard-like hue to the whole film. And I'm like, what is up with this? I want to see this just to see what's going on here. And Under the Skin was filmed with a lot of hidden cameras, as opposed to being on a film set. They shot a lot of it with hidden camera footage.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So all of it, and even in the plots themselves, I mean, just by the nature of independent films, you're going to get creative plot and story ideas. So like Locke being entirely about a phone conversation and a car ride home, or Under the Skin being about an alien who consumes humans, or Enemy being about a guy who meets his double. I mean, and that's not even getting into some of the weirder aspects of these films. Like, you could do there are people who made the whole videos on Enemy and all the spiders in that movie. I guess if you don't want to watch the film, there are spiders in it. So, a warning for people afraid of bugs, I guess.
Ron Weasley, don't watch this.
Yeah. All these three films, I think, at least in my experience, if you were really into independent film around, when was this? Like maybe 2013?
Yeah, like early 2012
came out.
2013.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. Sorry.
These films were like it, because it was like nobody was really doing something like this. And so just to see these films being made, you're like, well, this is interesting. I have to go and see this. And they were worth talking about because they weren't just conventional dramas. They had weird elements to them that kept you like,
engaged.
What's up with the spiders? Yeah. It's about fascism. Don't worry. And so they're all, I mean, I would recommend all three of them for sure. But I don't want to talk too long about weird, nerdy movies. So we can, if you got anything you want to bring up, go ahead.
Well, there is a movie that comes out 2 years later, and it kind of really put A24 in that category of we can win. Like Spring Breakers won fans. The three films that you mentioned probably brought along the quote unquote cinema fans. I'm gonna use a Martin Scorsese quote. And I would say Room brought critics to appreciate A24.
Yeah.
Which is the 2015 movie starring Brie Larson. And this movie is so emotional for half of the movie taking place in I don't even know, like a 6x6 square foot room.
In one room, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to talk about unconventional movie making. Half of the movie is just in this room. And I think that's it's crazy because when they finally, spoiler alert, they finally do get out, there's like a sense of like relief because
freedom.
You even see it in the cinematography too, right? Where when they're in the room, it's very tight and it's close up on their faces, and you know, it feels kind of, you feel claustrophobic, and then when they get out, everything's wide open. The camera's taking a step back from the actors. But just speaking about the impact of this movie, this was I think this was the first A24 movie to be nominated at the Oscars, if I'm correct. If I'm not mistaken.
You are not correct. You are mistaken.
Oh, Tim, cut that out.
What movie do you think got nominated first? I'll give you a hint. It was for Best Original Screenplay. And I'll give you another hint. You mentioned it earlier this podcast.
Oh, Ex Machina. I didn't even see it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. My bad. Ex Machina, sorry.
Your point still stands. It was still nominated for more than one Oscar.
But yeah, I just remember seeing this movie and be so... I've never felt helpless watching a movie. And especially in the first half, this movie just kind of makes you feel like, damn, like, this sucks. And you kind of, you're kind of, I don't want to say it's empathetic because I've never been in that. It's sympathetic, sorry. Because Brie Larson is so frustrated throughout the whole movie, and you're like, like, it's such a great performance and acting, and it's kind of sad because Brie Larson and acting, and the kid too. But it's kind of weird because Brie Larson, would you say that Brie Larson has kind of fallen off by the wayside since this movie?
Since this movie, like, in terms of her roles and what she's done,
like her, no, like her, just her, I guess, talent as an actress.
Oh.
Because I would say yes.
How much of that do you think is because she's fallen off, and how much is that is because you think she started making Marvel movies?
Probably a little bit of A, a little bit of B, I would say. 'Cause she's a terrible Captain Marvel. I've only ever seen, so I haven't seen the first Captain Marvel, but I've seen trailers and I've seen Endgame. She is god awful as, and I'm not even trying to say that as like a soul boy, like anti-feminist Redditor that attacks her for no reason. I'm just saying that as like a guy who was very impressed with her performance in Room and is just continually let down.
I don't really know much else that she's done outside of Room and the Marvel stuff. But I'm in your camp. I didn't see the Captain Marvel film, but I saw Endgame. And I mean, I wasn't bothered by it, but I didn't expect to see the same, emotional depth in Captain Marvel that I did in a film like Room.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, it should be said about A24. The advantage of being an independent label is that they're not really expecting to reach, the kind of 4-quadrant audience that Marvel is. And that lets them do more niche, and even, I would say, emotions are probably a niche subject as well. So a much more emotionally pungent film than you would see out of, MGM or Marvel or what have you, Yeah,
because do you think this movie gets made by any of the other, I guess we're big 4 studios now?
Yeah, out of any of the big studios? No, not really. I think today I could only really see this coming out of like Netflix.
Yeah. Which I think is why it's so surprising that it was so celebrated at the Oscars. I think
yeah.
Because Larson, obviously, she took home the Best Actress. I think it was nominated for Best Picture, I believe. Yeah, Best Picture.
Yes, it was.
And what else did it receive? Sorry.
Did the kid win the award?
No.
Oh.
Wasn't even nominated.
No? What, really?
Yeah. No. So
I could
just for
sworn. Oh well, whatever.
Just for some kind of reference as to what year this was the same year as The Revenant, The Big Short, Mad Max Fury Road, and Spotlight. So for it to be
good year
present at the Oscars in a big, because it wasn't like, oh, she got a Best Supporting Actress and that's all it got. It got Best Adapted Screenplay nom. It got the Best Picture nom. It got the Best Director nom. It got what else did it get? I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I think it kind of paved the way for a movie that I'll talk about in a little bit. But say what you got to say.
Well, I think just for that year too, it out of that list of people films nominated for Best Picture, it's probably for my money it would be the clear winner. Spotlight isn't even the clear winner in that category.
You don't think so?
No. Why?
I don't know. So you would put Room? You would put Room over Spotlight, Mad Max. I don't even throw Bridge of Spies in there because it's a Steven Spielberg movie.
Mm.
You would do that? You would
if
put
I'm
Room
thinking about what kind of films usually win Oscars, I think Room is the best out of all of those. If we're talking like pure enjoyment, when I was in the movie theater enjoying a film, my favorite films from that year, I would pick The Revenant.
Yeah.
But for the Oscars, I think Room was probably, maybe Bridge of Spies, but I don't know. Actually, I rescind that statement.
What about The Martian? Side note: Is The
movie,
Martian
no.
the most? Is it one of the most overrated movies? I'm leaning yes.
No. Why? I hardly hear anybody talk about that film since it's come out.
I don't know. I think it's good too. I think people. I don't know. Maybe I just hang around the wrong people.
I think the book was overrated, but yeah, that's just me.
That's
Probably
fair.
the most pretentious thing I'll
That's
ever
fair.
say in my life, but nonetheless.
Anyways, moving on. So
Moving
yeah,
on.
Room paved the way for A24 to be taken seriously for the critics, which brings me to my next movie, Ladybird. The Greta Gerwig.
That's surprising. I didn't expect that.
You didn't think I was gonna bring up Ladybird?
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
I actually really like this movie.
Really?
I kind of went into it apprehensive because it's. I mean, like I'll be honest, it's a movie about a coming of age female, and I'm not a coming of age female, so I was like, is this movie really for me? And then I watched it, and I was like, it's not for me, but I still enjoyed it. It was a good watch. It's as far as coming of age movies, you know, the ones that come off the top of my head are Superbad, like comedies, coming of age comedies. Superbad is obviously the tip of the iceberg, like the top of the top. I would put Ladybird like probably in the A or B tier,
Close
right
by.
below it. Yeah, it is surprisingly impactful and relatable, even though I'm not a 18-year-old female in I think Sacramento.
Yeah.
And I mean, Greta Gerwig, I think this was her debut, which again, A24 giving directors a shot. Oh, it's not her debut, it's her second film, but the first one came out in 2008, so we're not
Nonetheless.
going to count it.
Yeah.
We're not going to count it.
First one was also co-directed by Joe Swanberg.
Gotcha.
Shout out to Joe Swanberg. I've never liked a film from him, but shout out to him.
But yeah, this was another film that was very, very present at the Oscars. I think it got 5 nominations: Best Picture, Actress, Supporting Actress, Original Screenplay, and Director. And this just reinforced what Room did, which was this is a legit studio who we can be taken seriously by both critics and fans. And it's not, you know, like some movies that get nominated at the Oscars, it's kind of like, yeah, but fans didn't like that movie. Like audience members didn't like that movie, even though critics may have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think this is when A24 was like, no, we can do both. Like we don't have to, you know, because it made a lot of money. This movie made almost $80 million on a $10 million budget, which is phenomenally well. I think that's like what is that, like an 80% return or something? I don't even know the math on that.
Don't make me do math.
Not a lot of movies make that kind of return unless you're, you know, Marvel or Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think Lady Bird is a phenomenal movie. I kind of rolled my eyes when people were recommending it to me, but it is good. It is a very good movie. And it's kind of cool because, you know, a lot of movies take place in like Los Angeles or Toronto, San Diego, like big name cities. And so for a film to be in Sacramento, it's kind of different. And I appreciated that. And it's super emotional too, which I liked.
You skipped a film.
What film did I skip?
You skipped over a film.
Where?
You skipped over Moonlight.
I didn't see Moonlight. But
okay.
yeah.
It won in a really interesting way. Best Picture.
I will say though, Moonlight, yeah. It pairs with Moonlight where it's
Yes.
we can be at the Oscars and we can be taken seriously. Even though Moonlight it didn't have that same commercial success that
True.
Lady Bird had, because you know, even though it was only made for a couple million and it made a couple million back, I think it's the lowest grossing movie for a Best Picture winner like ever.
It is the second lowest grossing
second
Best
lowest
Picture winner.
Hurt Locker.
Yep.
So I don't think it had that same commerciality that Ladybird had.
If you ask me, though, I think that only just reinforces A24 even more.
Yeah, for sure, because they're not willing to sell out, I guess, quote unquote, sell out.
Well, can they really control whether a film, makes $100 million at the box office? Maybe not that much, but
I mean, you can, but
nothing's
ever guaranteed in this industry.
In my opinion, Moonlight was really the big, like, how would I describe this? A lot of the elements that we have been talking about up to this point, the, up and coming director who's enthusiastic about telling some specific story or point of view, and the creative approach to storytelling and cinematography, as well as just, even though this Moonlight was not an extremely commercially successful film, it still made like $65 million in the box office.
Yeah,
that's more than Spring Breakers,
which I think a lot of that is actually after it had its Oscar run, because I remember reading that some point it only had 20 million. So I think a lot of that was the re-release after the Oscars.
True. So I will take back that point. But in terms of like how A24 creatively approaches producing their films, I think Moonlight is really the what's the word for it? Not epicenter, but like, all the planets aligned for this film, and it absolutely makes sense why it won the Best Picture. I know I was in film school when La La Land came out, so I know exactly that everybody was disappointed when it won. Everyone wanted La La Land to win, and I hate all those people, but Moonlight is
Did you not like La La Land?
No, La La Land's a great movie. Moonlight was just better.
Fair enough.
For sure. Then again, no one saw it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to be.
No one saw Moonlight.
It's kind of hard to say that the more popular movie shouldn't have won Best Picture when, it
was popular.
Moonlight didn't really sell that well.
True. But no, Moonlight's great. Yeah, and Barry Jenkins is a great director. Watch If Beale Street Could Talk. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, so just to kind of what I was saying about how a lot of people went after it got nominated. The weekend following its Oscars, it grossed 2.5, up 260% from its previous week.
Wow.
And it was the highest grossing weekend of its release ever. So
not bad at all.
260% return. 2016?
Not bad at all.
Was that 2016 or 2017? 2016.
Yes, 2016.
Or it's the award show was in 2017, but
yeah.
I actually think this is when I started hating, or not hating, but I kind of started rolling my eyes at the Oscars.
At the Oscars, not at A24?
The Oscars. Yeah, because this was like almost 4 hour. This was a 4 hour thing, and Jimmy Kimmel was the host. I don't hate Jimmy Kimmel, but I think it could have been better. As far as the movies go, it's a pretty solid year. You had Hidden Figures, Hell or High Water, Hacksaw Ridge, Fences, Arrival, Moonlight, like we said, Manchester by the Sea, La La Land. So there were some good movies. Films. Yeah, there was a lot of good movies.
Oh no, that's an amazing year. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, for sure.
If you have any year with Moonlight, Hell or High Water, and Manchester by the Sea in the same, all nominated for an Oscar, that's a great year, man. Those are all great movies.
Yep.
Anyway, I'm being a nerd.
You're good. Another movie that came out that year and actually a month later, Disaster Artist. Have you seen The Disaster Artist?
I have not seen because I don't like James Franco, but I'll let you talk to your heart's content.
Okay. Well, then I won't talk to my heart's content, but as far as absurd comedies go, and I've seen my fair share of absurd comedies, this is right up there. It is so funny and it is so ridiculous that, you know, it is weird to see Franco kind of taking on a role like this, like a real person, not just like something that came out of his imagination.
Hey man, his role in Spring Breakers was based on Riff Raff.
Oh my god. Yeah, but it's not Riff Raff himself.
True.
But I also like this movie because it feels like a Franco and Rogen kind of movie. Because I mean, Franco obviously directed it, and Seth Rogen has a part in it. But yeah, this movie is surprisingly, as funny as it is, it's also very relatable because, you know, Tommy Wiseau is trying to chase his dream. And as a film student at the time, I could relate to that, and I was like, yeah, that's gonna be me one day making movies. And so that really that aspect of the movie really spoke to me. Another movie that got a couple noms that I know got nominations at the Golden Globes. Franco won for Best Musical or Comedy Actor, and I think he got Best Screenplay.
Yes.
Yeah, it got a nomination.
Or actually, Best Adapted Screenplay.
Best Adapted, yeah, because it's based off the book. Yeah, it's another. This is A24 once again being like, we can be here at the awards, which, you know, me and you don't put a lot of stock in that, but it does help for visibility. It does help for what's the word I'm looking for? Like credentials, right? Like to show quote unquote movie audiences, another Martin Scorsese quote, that we are good, I guess, whatever good means. You know, it's all subjective, but I think a lot of people do put stock in these awards, which, you know, it's whatever. You know, you're more than welcome to do that. But yeah, surprisingly, it didn't make a lot of money. $30 million against a $10 million budget, and I think that's just because of the absurdity of the movie. Like, if you don't know the story of Tommy Wiseau in The Room, you're not gonna go watch this movie.
Yeah, like, not Room starring Brie Larson.
Yeah.
The Room.
I think Seth Rogen mentions that in every interview about The Disaster Artist. He's like, yeah, we're making a movie about The Room, not Room starring Brie Larson. It's kind of funny. It's a little funny thing he does. And it's also crazy how many names are behind this movie.
Yeah, true.
Like, obviously we have the Franco brothers, which is pretty cool because it's not every day you see siblings co-star. We have Rogen, we have Evan Goldberg producing it, who produces like basically every big comedy you know of starring Seth Rogen and James Franco. He's one of the producers. Like, we're talking The Interview, This Is the End, The Green Hornet, whatever, Sausage Party, Superbad. Like, those are some of the biggest comedies of the 21st century. So for his name to be behind this is pretty cool. Josh Hutcherson makes a surprise appearance where I'm like, hey, I remember you.
He's from the Hunger Game movies, right?
Yeah. Surprisingly good actor. Not in this movie, but, you know, in every movie that he's in.
Wow. Anything else? Bryan Cranston.
I don't know if you knew that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Zac Efron's in this. Bryan Cranston has a small role. Sharon Stone's in this. Hannibal Buress is in this. Judd Apatow makes an appearance. I mean, these are all appearances. They're not big roles, but the fact that they're, I guess, willing to be in it is kind of cool. I think there's a whole prologue before the movie where they're talking about The Room and then trying to like hype up the Room. I think it's like Kristen Bell is in it, Adam Scott, Kevin Smith is in it, Danny McBride, J.J. Abrams. When I saw J.J. Abrams in that prologue, I was like, holy shit! Like, there's a lot of big names in this movie.
They just got all their friends together.
Yeah, basically, which is pretty cool. Because it feels like just friends making a movie when you watch this. So, I really like The Disaster Artist.
Not bad.
And
Not
bad. We had to do it to him one last time.
Well, actually, can I talk about Good Time since that came first?
Oh yeah, go for Good Time.
Yeah, Good Time, and then you can do Uncut Gems afterwards because man,
go for it.
This is just personal opinion. I love the movie Good Time a little bit.
That's
Uncut Gems is kind of long.
That's the Robert Pattinson when he's is he a bank robber?
Yep.
Okay.
It stars for all the context in the world that you could possibly have. Good Time, not Good Times, but Good Time, is directed by Josh and Benny Safdie. Safdie. That's what it's pronounced. Yes, Safdie. They are two brothers who are directors and writers and also actors. Because Good Time stars Benny Safdie. This is their second film. They had previously made a film called Heaven Knows What, and it's a very obscure independent film. You would kind of have to go looking for it to see it. I don't even know the production companies. I don't even recognize them. Yeah,
it's that off the road.
It's that off the road, pretty much.
Nice. Cool.
It's not a bad film. I would only really recommend it if you're interested in the evolution of the Safdie brothers and their style, because, oh boy, are they willing to be as unique and out there as possible. It's a how do I want to say this? So first off, I guess I'll talk about their style. If you've ever seen a close-up in a film, imagine if a movie was shot entirely in close-up. That's going to be the Safdie brothers. They not rarely, but sparingly do anything but close-ups. There are very few establishing shots. Good Time is actually not that bad. Heaven Knows What is literally like entirely shot in close-up. Good Time has just this incredible vibe to it. I don't know how else to describe it. This film takes place entirely at night, and it's just filled with this like weird like neon sign kind of rush to it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you feel that way as well, but it just has this incredible like color to this film. They do this. I don't even know how to describe it, my guy. Uncut Gems is very similar, though. Would you agree?
I was just about to ask, do you think Uncut Gems is similar?
It's almost the only word I can even find to describe it is it's kind of cyberpunk like.
Yeah.
Like it like Blade Runner. It's like that exact same kind of feel. They're not science fiction films, but that kind of feeling is still there. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's so sleek isn't the right word because their films are really grainy and shot on film, so they have this grainy dirtiness to them. But man, I can't even find the words to describe it. It's so cool. I love the look of their films. And this is why I say the Safdie brothers are here to save cinema again, because they do what they do. It's so different, but they do it so well. It's just so incredible, man. Mm-hmm. Good Time is such a good film. I can't even describe it. But what I can describe is how freaking amazing Robert Pattinson is.
I was going to ask, do you think this is the beginning of his kind of renaissance from the Twilight era? Because he has been in some phenomenal movies and some phenomenal performances the past.
Oh, yeah.
Since, I guess around this time. This movie came out in what, 2016, 2015?
Yeah. It came out in 2017.
Oh, shoot.
So, don't worry about it. I mean, here's the thing, though. I definitely agree with you because Robert Pattinson had been in films like non-franchise, non-Twilight films prior to this. But dude, I didn't even recognize him. Like,
yeah, because he's got the beard, right?
Told.
He's like, he kind of looks ugly.
He had the beard and he bleached his hair.
Yeah.
And I had to be told that it was Robert Pattinson. I don't know why I never paid attention to it. But I had to be told that it was Robert Pattinson before I was like, wait a second. That whole time, that was him? I legitimately didn't even recognize him. It was like a month after I saw it, and I was like, whoa, that was Robert Pattinson. I never connected the dots for some reason. He does such an incredible job in this movie. And even Benny Sadfi, who barely has any lines at all, as the brother. I don't know, man. This film is just, it's a wild ride. It's just the Sadfi brothers' wild ride. If you just want a good film with like a good story, good acting, and a film that looks amazing, I would go with Good Time. And it's not that long either. Anyway, now you go.
Well, I was just gonna ask, do you think that Uncut Gems is kind of a like spiritual, I hate the word spiritual successor, but do you think it's kind of that where it's like I don't want to say continuation, but like it's definitely in the same
I would say
vein.
that. I think that it's part of just the Safdie brothers in a weird way. I think the larger budget that they got with A24 let them find and do something that I feel like they had wanted to do with Heaven Knows What, but they didn't get to do it, or it didn't come out the way that they wanted it to. And so with Good Time, they were like, okay, we have a bigger budget, larger production studio behind us. We can make this look the way we want it to look.
Yeah.
And I think they were like, we nailed it. We want to make another film. Let's just do it again.
Let's do it, but this time let's throw 10 times the budget.
Yeah. Yeah. So I definitely agree with you. I don't think spiritual successor is the right word because it's the same directors both time.
Yeah.
But continuation, I think, for sure. They definitely found, because even just the kind of story, that kind of seedy underworld of a big city, criminals and, ooh, I dropped something. Criminals and crooks and bank robbers and gamblers and swindlers, they really found that, like, the kind of stories they want to tell and the perspective they want to film from. Heaven Knows What had some of that, but
you start to see it kind of manifest with Good Time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you really see it come into its own and have its own form with Good Time.
I got you.
Yeah. So I will let you now take away. Because
you know how I know this movie's you know how this movie I know is a good movie? I find it on Instagram. Movie? It's on the movie Instagram pages, like Filmatic.
Good Time or Uncut Gems?
Both.
Oh yeah, true.
So if
I wouldn't doubt that.
Just the word to all you aspiring filmmakers: if your movie is on a Instagram film page, you're doing something right.
Okay.
Would you say that this movie has the kind of... I've never seen this movie. I've heard of it. I've seen a couple scenes here and there, but I've never actually sat down and actually watched the whole movie.
I would recommend it.
No.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm thinking about... If you say it's like Uncut Gems, I think I will.
Yeah.
But do you say it has that kind of same anxiety ridden... Like it's driven by anxiety the way Uncut Gems is? Because Uncut Gems is exhausting of a movie.
Here's the thing. And you had said this when you said that it was an anxiety-inducing movie, and I was like, oh, you're right, but why is that? I was thinking about it. What the Safdie brothers do really well is they don't tell 3-act stories. Mm-hmm. They tell really linear stories. Like, they have beginning and middle and end. You could cut it up that way. And Good Time is a perfect example of this because of how short and, like, well-knit and tight the story is. There's not really like a first second or third act, there's really just like characters continually making decisions and then continually dealing with the consequences of those decisions, and it just builds and builds and builds, and you're like, when is the consequence for that thing they did 5 scenes ago going to come back to get them?
Yeah.
Or when is the karma for that thing they did 30 scenes ago going to come back to get them? Because it is, but you can't tell because there's never like a breather. It just keeps going. And they don't let, there's no like second act break or third act break or what have you, and that you would in like conventional storytelling. It's all one stream of just characters making decisions and getting in trouble for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And you see that a lot in Uncut Gems as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of Uncut Gems, Adam Sandler. God.
They brought him back from
This
the
is
dead.
Adam Sandler just straight up barging into the room, being like, "I heard you MFers talking shit," and just drops this with an amazing performance. I even think he came out and said a quote like, "If I'm not nominated at the Oscars, I'm done making movies," or something like that, because that's how confident he was in his performance, and it is a really, really good performance. I don't know what it is about Adam Sandler in this movie that I'm like, yeah, that looks like this character, because he's not like he's very superficial, right? And you can see that in kind of the way Adam Sandler carries himself, and also like just the costume design and like the way he dresses and stuff like that. And I think
it's one of those things where it's like, I don't even feel like Adam Sandler got in the character. I feel like he just was that person.
Yeah, I could
saying?
see that. I could see that. He's just like, let me just elevate my daily life.
Yeah.
For better or worse. Yeah, but if you want to talk about, like you were talking about, how Good Time is like this, it never stops. This movie never ever stops as well. I think that's a credit to it's Safdie brothers.
Yeah, Safdie.
Okay. The Safdie brothers is, I guess, sense of pacing and knowing that we cannot a lot of dramas, they'll have these long establishing shots.
Yeah.
And they'll cut away with, like, I don't know, they'll just do something, right, to kind of slow the movie down when they want to slow it down.
Yeah.
This movie does not do that. This movie is like scene to 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 scene. Just non-stop.
It's kind of like what we were talking about with Christopher Nolan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of to me it reminds me a lot of The Dark Knight, which completely different kind of movies, but it's in that same vein because The Dark Knight also gives me a lot of anxiety when I the first couple times I watched it.
Are you sure you don't have an anxiety disorder?
No, I'm pretty sure I don't.
Okay, just making sure.
But that's just a mark of good filmmakers is, when you can set the pace to match the narrative of your movie, it really lends itself well to enhancing the movie. Because we even talked about this with like, we talked about this with like 1917, right? Where 1917 is this these long takes that kind of make you feel exhausted. This does the complete opposite, where it's like just nonstop, boom, 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 and when everything happens, you're like, like you just take that breath. And it really is a masterclass in how to set your pacing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I think the Safdie brothers in general are a really good masterclass on realism.
That too, yeah, because this is a story that feels like this actually could happen. Because a lot of movies, when people are like, this is relatable, you kind of take a step back and you're like, but is it really though? Like, there's a lot of things that need to happen but this is relatable because this is just a guy who has a gambling problem. And he can't stop having a gambling problem. And it's like, and he's now down bad with the, I guess, mafia, gangsters. I'll call them gangsters. And it's like, oh shit, like that's a thing that happens.
Well, also just like how they direct actors. Because, like I was saying, Adam Sandler is almost so natural in this role. You would almost think it's just him. But also, then you have people, and I was saying that with Robert Pattinson too, where like he is so natural. Something about the way that they write characters and they pick the right actors to perform those characters. Whether it's Robert Pattinson in A Good Time, or you have Adam Sandler and Lakeith, what's his last name, Stanfield, in Uncut Gems. Those guys,
Yeah.
like, you look at them in that movie and you're like, this isn't even an actor. They don't have that Brad Pitt effect in these roles.
Mm-hmm.
You could throw Guy Pearce in this movie and you wouldn't even know it was him.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really good at that. How do you feel about the Weeknd's performance?
Okay, look, that's.
I had to
That's
mention
one of
it.
those
He's
things
in the
though where
movie.
it's yeah, but that's one of those things where he's not like an actor.
Yeah. No. I'm not hating
You
on
know.
him at all. I think it's just funny that they chose the Weeknd
Yeah,
out
true.
of all the
Well,
people.
it's like, if Justin Timberlake was in the film, you're gonna be like, look, it's Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
So what can you do? We can't all be perfect, but Robert Pattinson and Adam Sandler, in their respective roles, they're perfect.
You want to
In
know
my
some
opinion.
trivia real quick that I'm reading about? Just about this movie.
Go ahead.
So apparently they wrote the film, or I guess they came up with the idea for the film in 2009, and they came up to Sandler at that time, and his manager actually rejected the script.
Jeez. In 2009, so that was
Yeah.
like what, Grown Ups 1?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
No, wow.
2009 is. Yeah, he just came off of. So to kind of put context of where he was at in his career, Bedtime Stories, Funny People, Grown Ups was, and Just Go With It was 2008 to 2011. So he was still kind of like a big. I mean, he's a big sell, obviously, but
Yeah.
I would
Wasn't
say
like a
like
big
his,
sell for a bad reason.
Yeah, he was. He was still seen upon very kindly.
Yes,
To a degree.
we had not
And then he
hit
came out
Jack
with-
and Jill territory.
And then he came out with Jack and Jill, and everything just catered.
Turned
Do we
south.
think?
Yeah.
Do you think we see him in another drama?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Dude, Adam Sandler is a genuinely good actor. Have you ever
Yeah,
seen Punch
yeah.
Drunk Love? Yeah. I have this. I think I've mentioned this, but I have a soft spot for when comedians do dramatic roles. I love that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And because they're always amazing. They're always amazing. Whenever a comedian does something incredibly dramatic, they're always amazing.
Yeah. That's why I think The Longest Yard might be his best performance. Well, besides this movie.
And Uncut Gems as well.
Yeah. I meant besides.
Or
Uncut Gems.
no, not Uncut Gems, but Punch Drunk Love. I like that film.
I haven't seen. Is that that's a rom-com, right?
It's kind of a rom-com, yeah. I mean, it's about as rom-com
Think of-
as a Paul Thomas Anderson film could get.
I've heard of it.
So,
I haven't seen it.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
recommend.
surprised if we. I mean, it's kind of sad because he comes out with Uncut Gems and everybody's like, "Oh, dude, Adam Sandler's back," and then he comes out with Hubie Halloween. And it's like, no, is he though? It's like shit. Come on, Adam, what are you doing? I can't hate him. He's making money.
Yeah, what can you do? He's making money for sure, for sure. I have a movie for you as well.
I was gonna ask, you have another one, right?
Yes, I do. I don't believe you saw this film, but did you ever see Hereditary?
No, this is Remind me of the director. I know he does Midsummer as well.
Ari Aster.
Yeah. Sounds, yeah.
Yes. This and another film called The Witch, which was directed by Robert Eggers, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. These two films, particularly Hereditary, I want to speak about the most. I mean, they're just good horror films. And you don't get many. This kind of style of horror just doesn't exist in America. And I think
what kind of horror is that?
Like, where it's not even scary. It's just intensely creepy and unsettling. Like, certainly I think if you're, if you're easily scared, you're gonna think any kind of horror film is creepy and unsettling. But in a world of jump scares, stuff like The Witch and Hereditary are a fresh air. I will mention that the precedent was set by The Babadook. The Babadook walked so Hereditary could run. But nonetheless, if you'll excuse the analogy. So this is the directorial debut by Ari Aster. And this is like if you were going in your first professional boxing match and you knocked out the guy with one punch. That is what this is for Ari Aster.
High praise.
It was one of those things where I saw it and I was like, okay, either this guy like is a puppet and there's someone behind the scenes telling him what to do, or he's just like a god.
This good.
He's just naturally amazing at directing. He just knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He just knows what he's doing. It's such a... What I love about horror movies is how they will take just everyday, maybe not every day, but they take issues and they take mental health issues, or they just take, usually it's mental health issues, and they will dramatize them in a way that it works even if you don't really know what it's about. Because Hereditary is an incredibly creepy film with so many moving parts to it that you have to see it a second time. Because the first time you're like, what's going on here? And then you get distracted and you're like, what's going on here? And it's really not until like, maybe the second or third time you see it where you're like, you feel like you can keep track of everything and you can put it together. And that's just for the plot. When you actually think about what the film is about, which, spoiler alert, it's about narcissism, you see it like a fifth time and it's like, okay, this all takes on a whole new meaning now. Now I know what this is about. Now I know what's going on here on two different levels. And that's just good filmmaking. Like, it's a high bar to pass, but it's the least you can do. That is just good filmmaking.
Because he does the same kind of thing in Midsummer, right? Where there's like hidden message behind the horror.
Yeah, for sure.
I like that.
The Witch is a little more obvious because in The Witch you can at least you like The Witch, that it's about like religious puritanicalism.
Sure,
like it's almost obvious.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a fantastic film, and if you enjoyed The Lighthouse, I would recommend The Witch. But Hereditary was one of those films, and it's such a well-made film. Like, the cinematography in this film literally blew me away when I was in the theater, and I was like, oh my god, this is so smart. This is so incredibly smart. Whoever directed or was a director of photography is just smart.
Give him all the money in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that if we're talking purely about cinematography, I prefer Hereditary over Midsummer. But I was just like, my God, My
It's the same.
God.
Same cinematographer in both movies.
Nice. They're a good duo, I'd say.
Sold really well as well.
I forgot.
80 million at the box office on a $10 million budget.
It was a really popular film. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really popular film, for sure.
Yeah. I don't like horror movies, so that's like already a strike against it. I watched Midsummer just because I wanted to, because we were talking about the 2019, and I was like, I guess I have to watch Midsummer. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of horror movies.
Film. Well, what I like about this style of horror, is that it's much more dramatic. You know, it's because you have stuff like The Conjuring and Insidious, where it's scary, but the point is to be scary. When it comes to films like Hereditary or Midsummer or The Witch, the point is to, or even The Babadook, or I brought up foreign films, so if you're talking about movies like Antichrist, the point isn't just to be scary, it's to actually tell a story. It's just that horror is how they've chosen. It's the metaphor they've chosen to tell you this story. You know, Hereditary isn't just about a Greek tragedy kind of prophecy coming true. It's about narcissism. Or The Babadook isn't just about, you know, the monster under the bed. It's about grief. They're still telling you a narrative and a dramatic story. They're just doing it in a really creepy and unsettling way. It's just
creepy. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
For sure.
I guess
yeah.
I can appreciate that more than like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's literally just put 6 teenagers and just torture them for an hour and a half. I can appreciate when there's a sense of narrative and like themes and motifs running through a horror movie.
It's just the fact that it's scary.
It's just, I don't like being creeped out.
Ah, man. It's worth it. It's worth it. This is one of those films where you watch it. If you want to talk about anxiety, you probably shouldn't watch this because it probably will give you a panic attack if you have an anxiety disorder. Because it's one of those films where you're watching it and you're just like, this can't get any worse. And then it gets worse. And you're like, well, we've hit rock bottom. And then they go even deeper. And you're like, okay, what are we doing here? No, it's a great movie. And A24, because this is an A24 podcast, remember?
Yeah.
They really, they didn't just plant their foot down and say we're doing, this kind of horror film. They are that category of horror film. They do that. They set the precedent in America for that kind of horror film with The Witch and with Hereditary. And then eventually with Midsummer. Yeah.
Do you think this movie is them looking at what Blumhouse is doing and saying, hey, we can do that, but better? Because Blumhouse's whole thing is, let's make horror movies super dirt cheap, and then we'll just make a buttload of money. So do you think this is them being like, hey, we make movies for cheap already. Why don't we just make horror movies because they sell so well? But we'll make you with actual talent.
Potentially, I think it's really more so that they're just saying, let's make good independent horror films. Let's not just make horror films. Let's make, like I said, a narrative film, but one that uses horror as its genre to tell its story. I could be saying the exact same thing in just a slightly more pretentious way. Because I think Blumhouse, they're more on the side of shock and awe kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't put them in the same category, personally.
Fair enough.
Personally, just me. I mean, even a film like A24 did a film called Tusk, which is a Kevin Smith movie about a guy who turns into a walrus, and that's not a spoiler. And it's horrifying. and that's the point, is to be horrifying. But I wouldn't remotely put it in the same category of horror film. I still think that The Witch and Hereditary were really the two big stepping stones, for sure.
Gotcha.
Tusk is a terrible movie. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
There any other movies?
Is there? Oh, do I want to mention? I can mention tons of movies from these guys.
Okay.
For sure. Let's see here. I want to mention.
Quick, how do you feel about The Lighthouse?
The Lighthouse. Robert, I'll say that I think that was definitely one of those films I kind of rolled my eyes at. I'll admit it. Like that and A Ghost Story, which was a Casey Affleck movie. Those two were, I did kind of roll my eyes at them, and I was like, this is like if you focus, just from the trailers, I was like, this is kind of if you did a focus group on how are we going to hit independent film fans. What elements do we need to have? Make it black and white. All right. Make it in a small aspect ratio. Yeah. Put Robert Pattinson in it. Make it, give it weird dialogue without subtitles. And I was like, it felt a bit too. I rolled my eyes at it for sure.
Yeah, I wasn't into The Lighthouse as much as my peers were.
Maybe I just prefer the Ari Aster horror over the Robert Eggers horror. I think that's how this is coming across right now. But,
I wouldn't even say it's horror. It's kind of just...
It's just weird, creepy, and unsettling. Yeah.
But it's not like...
For sure.
Like at no point during this movie was I scared. It's just... It was just a weird movie.
Yeah, true. The Witch you would probably feel the same way about too. True. Oh yeah, okay. More things to mention with A24. I have 2 other TV shows they've produced. They've produced a handful of TV shows, but I want to give a special shout out to Euphoria, the HBO show that I'm sure 90% of people have watched. At least anybody who might be listening to this has almost certainly watched Euphoria. So they were one of the production companies for that show. When you talk about great cinematography, Euphoria is amazing and beats probably everything. And great acting too. But I also want to give a shout out to a show called Rami, which is a Hulu show. That's a great show about first generation American. I think he's Egyptian immigrant. It's a great show. I really liked it. It's on Hulu.
The comedy, right?
It's a comedy, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one of those comedies where it's like it's a drama. It's a dramedy, I think is how they call it. But no, it's good. That's a good. And A24 really likes. They're really diverse in that they focus heavily on. They do a good job finding stories that they know aren't being told.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the films we've talked about are either first-time directors or heavily inspired by like I said with the horror films, you can only really compare them to like foreign horror movies because it's not really an American style. And a show like Rami is a really good example of them finding like what isn't on TV right now. Let's do that. And I would recommend it for sure. Just my opinion. Anyway, anything you want to bring up, Isaac? I feel like I've rambled. I've talked for like half an hour.
No, you haven't
Hereditary.
You have not rambled. Excuse me. As far as A24 movies, let me look at the list real quick. Great. How'd you feel about 8th grade?
Yes, Bo Burnham. Dude, I loved it. And Bo Burnham is amazing. I love Bo Burnham so much. And I was so glad that film was amazing. If you want to talk about a good coming of age movie, it's really smart. Because I think this kind of came out at the same time as another coming of age film called The Edge of 17. Or maybe it was The Edge of 16. I don't remember.
Yeah. I like that movie too.
And I remember... You like that one? Because I remember seeing the trailer and being like, "Oh God, not another one of these."
No. Did you actually see it though?
No, because I saw the trailer and I was like, "I already hate this."
The trailer doesn't do it justice. Because I thought the same thing, and we had to actually go watch it for class. Edge of 17, we got like a free screening.
Oh really?
It's better than the trailer puts on. I liked it, but continue your 8th grade. Sorry.
Well, even if Edge of 17 doesn't fall into that category, the kind of coming of age film I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. The one where it's like adults saying, how do we reach a teen audience? It's like, you brought up this movie. Oh, no, you didn't. What's a good example of a bad teenage film?
A lot. There's a lot of bad teenage films.
American Pie. American Pie. Just this terrible. They're so bad that I can't even name them because I don't bother remembering any of them. And I was so glad that. Here's what I'll do. Compare 8th grade to like Diary of a Wimpy Kid, in terms of how they represent middle school. Where Diary of a Wimpy Kid is like, it's fiction, but it's like, a stereotypical like. It's just blended together every stereotype of what middle school is supposed to be like, that by the time you get to the film, it doesn't even feel like it was trying to be an authentic experience, which is totally missing the point of Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but my point still stands because I'm always correct. 8th grade did a really good job of finding a genre that you could just beat to death with, like, here are the bully jocks and they're going to bully you, and here are all the mean girls and their cliques and they're going to make fun of you. And it like subverted every single one of those. And I don't know, I just like Bo Burnham. Bo Burnham's a smart guy. Bo Burnham has a big brain.
Yeah. This was definitely like like a breath of fresh air in the genre.
Yeah.
And it's once again a story that's not being told, because I can't think any middle school movies off the top of my head where it's dealing with like almost like sexual awkwardness, right? There's a lot of sexualness in an 8th grade movie, and it's because a lot of people don't want to touch that subject.
True, yeah.
But Bo Burnham's like, no, we need to talk about this because this is kind of an issue that is present in middle school.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the same way it's the same thing with Euphoria, right? Because I remember my mom watching Euphoria, and she's like, is this what high school is like for you guys? And my sister was like, yeah, kind of, to a degree. I mean, obviously, we didn't. My sister probably didn't have the same experience as, Euphoria characters, but she's like, yeah, there are some parts of that are present in high school, and it's like it's kind of like a revelation especially to the older audience members when they see something in like this, and they're like, man, this is what's going on right now. So I do like 8th grade for kind of tackling that subject, and it's also really smart because I can't think of a movie that incorporated social media and technology the way that this movie did.
It does. It's like an actual, like, it's not a weird thing.
Yeah. Because she's on her phone for quite a bit in this movie.
Yeah.
Right? Or she's like on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever.
It's hard to really say like what the movie does. I can definitely tell you in a lot of other films, if a character is like on their phone, it doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
And I don't know
what in this movie
it feels
8th real.
Grade, but they just, he just, I don't know. There's a weird like maybe it's the tone of the film, because it's not really a comedy, and so it doesn't feel like it's coming across to like be a joke or be like, haha, teens use technology, in the way that old people will. I dropped something again. In the way that old people will often write kids using phones as like, cyberbullying or watching dumb videos, and like that's it.
Yeah.
And I feel like Bo Burnham was just a bit more tonally. He was more grounded.
It also helps because he's relatively young, right? He's what is
true.
It, like in his mid-30s?
He's 30, yeah.
Yeah, so he grew up with a lot of this like technology that we use and that middle schoolers use.
Yeah.
He kind of was also there to kind of see it. So
for sure, that's a good movie.
Yeah, definitely. It's very good.
I think Bo Burnham was right where he said that
yeah, very surprised.
I cut you off, so you go. Yeah.
She was actually nominated, Elsie Fisher, the 8th grader, quote unquote.
Elsie Fisher, that's her name. I think I called her Ellie Fisher.
She's actually nominated for a Golden Globe, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I remember this film won Best Original Screenplay at the Writers Guild Awards. Bo Burnham won Best Original Screenplay because the Writers Guild apparently did their own award show.
Nice.
He won Best Original Screenplay, but all the other films that were nominated for the Oscar for Best Screenplay. But his movie wasn't.
And he won?
So when he won at the at the Writers Guild, and he gets up on stage and he's like, to all the other nominees in the category, have fun at the Oscars, losers.
That just shows the Oscars is like politics.
Pretty much, yeah. Probably, yeah. Man, A24.
Any other movies?
Impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, going through their filmography and you're like, I would imagine that if you're listening to this, you're like, I've never seen an A24 movie. Go look at their filmography. You have definitely seen at least 4 of them, I would say.
They are incredibly popular. They have grown from where they started, like,
and they're so different from one another, right? Like
yeah,
so the problem that I have with the big studios is, when you're watching a Sony movie, when you're watching a Universal, you're watching a Disney movie, when you're watching a Warner Brothers movie. A24, if you took the logo off, you wouldn't even know it's an A24 movie, which just speaks to their motto of filmmaking, which is we just want to create whatever we think is a story that needs to be told.
Yeah, I think their actual motto is like film from a different perspective or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So totally. They definitely live up to it. They live up to that for sure. And they do such a good job. And I think it helps that they are only getting more popular, because as it draws more attention, or as they get more attention drawn to them, they just get to do more and more of cool and crazy stuff.
The Green Knight has a lot of hype behind it from what I'm reading online.
Oh, yeah, for sure. To be fair, A24 has a lot of bad movies under their belt.
Oh, yeah.
They're not perfect. But when they are good, they're good. Like
the one that I can think of that Equals. You remember Equals?
Not at all, no.
I don't. It was the
touche.
What was it? It was Kristen Stewart and Nicholas Hoult. That's an A24 movie.
Huh. Interesting. I know Chris Stewart. I know who that is. Yeah, they have.
Remember?
I mean, like in the last year,
Hot Summer Nights?
Did. No, not at all. I don't even. I've never heard of that before.
Straight to.
Do you remember
TV.
Swiss Army Man?
I do remember hearing about Swiss Army. That's Paul Dano and Harry Potter. Why is his name escaping me? Daniel Radcliffe.
Harry Potter.
Was it good?
Go. I don't know. I didn't see it.
Okay. I remember people were like, "Whoa, this is cool."
I remember people were being like, "Oh, it looks cool, but it's not that good."
Yeah.
But they do a lot of that. That's the problem with being experimental, though. As much as we can praise A24 for having amazing films, if you're experimenting every single film, not every experiment is going to be a success.
Yeah, their high is super high and their low is pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah. Their highs are Hereditary and Good Time, and their lows are Spring Breaker.
Yeah. Can we talk about the Green Knight real quick for like 5 minutes?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want to say?
Have you seen the trailer for it? I
have not, because I like avoiding trailers when I can.
Okay, fair enough.
Who stars in it?
It's Dev Patel.
Okay, that's good.
I'm a big fan of him.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think Alicia Vikander and Joel Edgerton co-star.
Joel Edgerton, he's a pretty good actor as well. Yeah.
Directed by David Lowery, who has big hits like Pete's Dragon and A Ghost Story.
By big hits, do you mean, wow, it made 143 million at the box office? Never mind. I was about to make a joke about how it was a flop.
I mean, it's a kids movie, so like kids movies, if you don't sell a kids movie, that's,
that's bad.
Yeah, come on. It's a kids movie.
True. Well, nonetheless.
So I watched the trailer yesterday.
How'd it look? Did any of the elements that we have talked about seem to show their faces? Because you have a big name actor. You have Dave Patel. You have a relatively underrated director, David Lowery.
So my hype is kind of dampened a little bit after watching the trailer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And why is that?
I don't know. I feel like they're trying to, like, it feels like kind of feels like a blockbuster.
Would you say that as A24 gets more popular, they run the risk of being more commercial? Or more focused on commercial success than just the pure experimentation that we got earlier?
I don't think so, because I think if they were going to be commercialized, I think we would have already seen that transition. And I don't feel like
potentially. Well, one of the big issues is because they're an independent studio and they're very popular. They're still making independent films, but they're just popular movies. Like Hereditary was popular. Uncut Gems was pretty popular. The Lighthouse was pretty popular. Minari was also nominated for a bunch of Oscars.
Well, those movies are popular relative to relative to A24 movies. Like, I wouldn't say The Lighthouse is popular because it only made 18 million at the box office. That's like a drop in the hat, As far as as far as cinema quotes, thank you, Martin, versus movie audiences. Sure. People who are in the know of movies, they know about these movies and they're very popular to them. But like to casual audiences, what would you say? How many people have watched The Lighthouse? I would say like 1 in 7 have seen The Lighthouse.
True.
So I feel like even though to me and you it seems popular because we have a lot of peers and colleagues who like these movies, I think to the casual audience they're still an independent. I say casual, it's not a derogatory term, but to people who aren't in the know, like, a lot of people that we know, or like me and you, I would say they're not that popular. Because A24 could easily just be like, here is $50 million, Martin Scorsese. Go make us a movie.
Yeah.
But they don't. And they're
True.
still keeping true to that formula of underrated or breaking out director, one or two big names like in their cast, and a story that needs to be told.
That's fair. I can see that. I mean, when you compare, the problem with comparison is you're always going to find some way to be right or wrong. Like, compared to other A24 films, they're definitely successful and popular, but compared to, like you said, a Martin Scorsese or like a Christopher Nolan, they're nowhere near that.
Yeah, because like Hereditary, right? To put this in context, you said Hereditary is one of the most popular movies that they've made. It actually is. It's the highest grossing movie. It only made $80 million at the box office. And I say only with,
wow.
Like, it's not...
80 million is still a lot.
That's nothing to scoff at. Like, when a movie makes... I think Marvel has kind of ruined our perception of how much money movies should make. But when a movie makes 100 million, that's actually really good for, when you make on a $20 million budget. So the fact that they made 80 million on a $10 million budget, that's pretty decent. But again, it's not a huge, big commercial success that we'll see out of these big directors or even big studios. Which I like because, as much as I like watching a Scorsese or Tarantino or Nolan movie, sometimes it's nice to just take a breath of fresh air and watch something that I normally wouldn't watch. Yeah, like 8th Grade is when would I ever watch a serious drama about 8th graders? And the fact that Burnham made a movie that's so, like, I can kind of relate to it. It's kind of weird because it's about an 8th grade girl and I'm not an 8th grade girl. Like I was saying with Ladybird. Ladybird's the same way. Yeah. But like, I shouldn't like this movie, right? Like, this should be a movie that I scoff at.
In a weird way too, we're used to the idea of movies like this not existing. Yeah.
Which is why, we brought up Edge of 17.
Those kind of people. Yeah,
exactly. Like, we brought up Edge of 17. I scoffed at Edge of 17's trailer, and then I actually had to watch it, and I was like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. And so I think A24 does that where they're constantly showing people different things. But on the Green Knight. Yeah, I'm not sold on it, man. I'm not. It looks like a typical kind of like medieval action movie, which I'm not saying that's what it's gonna be. It's probably not gonna be because A24, always to a degree subverts your expectations.
Unexpected.
Yeah. But they didn't. To me, they didn't do justice with that trailer. I'm still gonna watch it because it's an A24 movie and it's, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which is a fantastic poem.
We'll have to we'll do a podcast and review it.
Yeah, it comes out when does it come out? July. End of July. Yeah. So exciting stuff. I'm very excited for it, but kind of dampened. Any last thoughts or anything that you have before we get out of here?
Not really, no. I just think A24 is a good they do a good job of producing just really interesting and unique films and distributing interesting and unique films. They're really good at, I called them tastemakers earlier. Mm-hmm. They really are that for a lot of film fans.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Their work in distribution in particular, they really find just the most out there but interesting stuff, especially for people who are like cinephiles, the quote unquote cinema fans, as we're saying. They just hit the nail on the head for those people,
Definitely.
Good stuff.
Well, before we go, some bookkeeping stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Episodes will now be coming out every Friday. I know we've been kind of weird with the schedule of our episodes. But new episodes will now be coming out Fridays at 1:15 p.m. Central Time. So we'll kind of adjust to that, just to kind of keep our scheduling uniform. This was a good talk. I'm really, every day we talk, I become more and more educated about cinema, which is weird because I went to film school.
Yeah, true. Hey, there's always things to learn. There's always things to learn.
Yeah, there's so much,
For sure.
so many movies out there in the world. So, so everybody out there listening, go ahead and go watch a A24 movie or 4 of them. No big deal. I don't
watch 24 of them actually.
Yeah, take a chance. Watch a movie that you normally wouldn't like. I know we mentioned a lot of movies that we liked, but you know, there's so many other movies that we didn't get to that we could have gotten to, but time. So yeah, just take a chance, go watch one that, and you'll probably end up liking it. Yeah, because I think we both found a movie that we both liked.
Oh yeah,
from their filmography.
Oh yeah.
So thank you guys. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on the Facebook for more updates. Until we talk again. See you guys next week.
Alrighty.